morning. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. I'm a country girl now. I speak a little loud, so if I'm too loud, just let me know. But I appreciate the association having me back again this year. Just a couple of you all probably know my side jokes. My mental health was tested yesterday here. So, but I'm just grateful. One of the bartenders told me, like, "You just too calm with all that happened to you today. What's wrong with you? What kind of work you do?" But you know, you have to lead by example, and that's my biggest thing. You know, I can't. Yeah, we're gonna all have some hiccups that come up against us. What are we gonna do about it? Who is watching us? How do we carry ourselves? And when it comes to the mental health part, I thank Mr. Taylor for allowing me to come back, or the board allowed me to come back. On last year, I actually retired after 29 years in law enforcement from the Department of Corrections, and I received the Jim Ingram Lifetime Achievement Award, which they tricked me at the Top Cop Award last year. Had no idea, and I had no idea who Mr. Taylor or the association members were, but he walked up and asked me, would I consider speaking this year at the conference. It was here on the coast. Little did I know, God had another thing in place. One of the presenters pulled out. Mr. Taylor called me, what, 2 weeks, I think, before the conference and said, "Can you help us out?" And I'm like, "When?" He's like, "In 2 weeks." I said, "Are you serious?" So I changed around some things, and I'm glad I did, because this is a field a lot of people forget about. To me, you all are first responders also, because you're there, you're right there, you see it, you see people in the vulnerable positions. What are they gonna do? What do you do? So when I came back this year, I said, okay, I need to make sure I research what is best, what's the best information I can give you all. You know, from me having a law enforcement and a court background, when it comes to mental health, do anybody know what mental health awareness is? Let me ask that question. And I'm one of the ones, we participate in class, so y'all got to talk back to me, because I won't be up here talking all day, which I can do it now, but I need y'all to help me today. So mental health awareness, do anybody have any idea what is mental health awareness? Nobody? Oh, my star student over here. Yes, ma'am.
Mental health awareness is exactly what it indicates, right? It's the awareness of someone's status in terms of, you know, why they're acting in a certain way, and how to be keenly aware of what differences are in terms of potential diagnoses.
Exactly right. Now, in plain term for us, because me and Michelle talk all the time, stigma. It's trying to stomp out the stigma. Letting people understand, because if we was to go around this room statistically, and I will be number 5, 1 in 5 of us gonna deal with some type of mental health issue this year. If you hadn't, wait till by December. It's coming. A lot of times we don't tell it because of who we are, what we do, and how people perceive us. One of the things about when I was in law enforcement, I always told people, they think law enforcement officers are like a doorknob. We just got this shell on the outside, and we hard and hollow in the middle. We still got feelings, and we are human beings inside of there. So a lot of times we don't share what's going on with us. So, okay, whoops, I done went too fast. I said 1 in 5, that was pre-COVID. Now it's 1 in 4 of us actually deal with a mental health condition. COVID set a lot of us down to the point where we started looking at what was actually going on with us as individuals. If you can see, suicide is one of the highest rates that we have. And so you think about the business that you're in, somebody is facing life, in prison, freedom. Sometimes suicide is what they feel like that's the answer for them. I'd rather die before I go through this here again. They got the wrong person. Nobody's gonna believe me. I'm saying all this here because I worked in the court for 20 years. I was probation parole, but I actually had the opportunity or pleasure to working directly up under Judge Tommy T. Green. She's retired now. Actually as a probation officer in the courtroom. So these are some of the things that people actually share. You know, they would rather die than to have to go through this here. So you imagine if you all are the bail agent and you are in contact with this person probably right out, sometime before the police. So, you know, the probability of you dealing with somebody that may be in a suicidal state is very high. So you got 1 in 30 with PTSD experience, and then children with anxiety, which unfortunately now you all are dealing with kids charged as adults. I see it all the time. And then people of color less likely to access care. So as you all can see, I am African American. We typically don't do what we need to do when it comes to mental health. It's always that shame, don't want anybody to know, don't want anybody to tell. We don't tell house business, keep it in the house, don't say anything. So these are just some of the things. What is your role? The bail agent is a vital service to the criminal justice system. Bail agents help provide individuals secure pretrial release. Did I get that wrong? I tried to make sure I go and do my homework, because when I present, I want to make sure we do it. The connection between mental health and bail process. People involved in the criminal justice system often face significant mental health challenges. This is where you all participate. What do you think some of the challenges are? Yeah, quiet. Financial? What are some of the challenges you think somebody with a mental health condition may face?
Not being able to get care.
Care? Child support? Social, you say calendar?
Social calendar.
Challenges, okay. Some of the challenges is stress and anxiety. The stresses that they have. Depression, stigma, and shame. Stigma and shame to me is one of the biggest ones when persons are incarcerated. One of the latter part of my career at the Department of Corrections, I had the opportunity to actually go inside the prison and do mental health awareness trainings for persons incarcerated. For a 4-hour block, I was inside of the prison. So one of my friend girls thought I had lost my mind completely. She said, now I know you're passionate about your work, but have you lost your mind? You're going inside the prison. And my question was to her, when the last time you been to Walmart? We see anything with Walmart. So I say, I'm in the safest place I can be. And to be honest, and I'll say it today, and that year and a half that I actually went inside and did the mental health awareness training for the persons in the reentry academy, it was one of the highlights of my career. I learned more from them than they probably learned from me. But the thing about it, I saw the individuals as a person, not for the charge or the crime that was sitting before. And that's the important things, that we all got to be careful, but we all got to see people as a person and not the crime that they have actually been charged or committed. And then we got PTSD and trauma are two things. Being locked up, we always associate PTSD with the military, but PTSD is the environment that you're in. You know, like I said, I was in the prison. I didn't see it in all out fight or breakouts, but I did see the result of some and some of the people that had come. And so when you think about a person who's never been locked up before, and then you take them and they're incarcerated or detained in jail, one of the things I will say with the state of Mississippi, with the mental health laws that they have written, we used to just lock people up when they had a mental health problem until they get to the hospital, whenever that was. You can't do that anymore. You gotta find somewhere for that person to go before you take them to a jail and just sit them there and wait on it. So those are some of the things. And then the impact on the family, I think all of you all said that, the financial impact that people have, and just the impact of somebody being locked up, they might be the provider in that particular family. So those are just some of the challenges that they have. Recognizing the signs. This is where it's very important for us, and I say us, you all, to make sure that you pay attention to who's in front of you, what they're doing, what they're saying, and their change, their behavior. One of the things is the tone of voice. I tell everybody, pay attention to somebody's body language, their tone of voice, what they're doing, how they are saying it, erratic behavior, just different things, you know, as they always told us when we was in the academy, if it make the hair on the back of your neck kind of stand up, pay attention to it. Pay attention to your instincts, what they're saying, how they're doing it. For just to be very broad, pay attention to the people around them. Because if you're going to actually pick somebody up, I say that I associate what you all do. If you got to go arrest somebody as probation parole officer, we going into their domain. We have no idea what we're facing, who's in there, what the neighbors. It's a lot of things. So your safety is very important. So make sure you just keep an eye on if that person have a history. If you can find out what the history of that person is. How bail agents can help. One of the things is knowing your resources that you have accessible to you. The hotline, the mental health hotline and crisis line, 988, and I do have some flyers that I will give you all with this information on with some of the resources. And then your therapist and counselor, making sure that you know who your local community mental health center is. The local community mental health center, for no matter where you're in the state of Mississippi, is on a sliding fee scale. You can send people over there. If you happen to be in Hinds County, and I don't know if the rest of them, Hinds Behavior Help now have same-day access, where a person can actually go in and see a therapist between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m., Monday through Friday, 7 days a week, whatever days they open, 5 days, not 7. But you can actually access that. So I'm not sure if it's at all community mental health centers, but I'm quite sure if it's not there, it should be coming soon. We're trying to make access more accessible when people actually need it. And then support group, NAMI. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and I'll have that information for you also, where you can actually get trained to recognize if somebody say they got schizophrenia, bipolar, whatever, ADHD, you can actually go and they will train you or whomever. It may be you're one of your clients and their family is telling you, well, they got this or they got this going on. Refer them over there. You know, because sometimes you all are the one who could get people, navigate them to do some things that nobody else probably could, because they want to make sure Christiane stay free. So if the bonds, what's your name?
Alicia.
Miss Alicia told me to go over there, and Mama gonna go over there and take them classes if it's gonna be my freedom. So sometimes it's just making sure you all have the right information to give. And then legal support and advocacy, making sure, you know, they stay in contact with the attorney. You know who they are. Sometimes finding out who your public defenders are in your area may make the difference between that person and helping them. This way you all can help. And then the financial assistance program, I'm quite sure everybody in here at some point they help somebody out financially when it comes to the bonding business. So this part, I think you all got that already. So just making sure this is where you all could be a help to a person in a mental health that may have a mental health condition. Best practices for interaction. We kind of talked about this earlier. Pay attention to what the client is saying, both verbally and nonverbal. Because you know, nonverbal sometimes will get you hurt if you're not paying attention. One of the things I'll never forget, when I was probation parole, we had an officer, and she was in there handling the probationer wrong. I'm in my office and I could hear her, and she was just handling them the wrong way. But the young man's tone of voice started changing. And his voice started changing. I got up out of my desk. That's when I was really in shape then. And so by the time I got up and got to the door of her office, he was going across the desk at her. So all I did was just dove, and in the wall we went. So the supervisor come around the corner like, what the hell going on here? I said, I can explain it later. All he saw was a hole in the wall and the man on the floor and me, and he was like, okay, I don't even know. I said, I explained it later. But I explained, Tanya was like, how do you know he was gonna do that? I said, tell you, his voice changed. You was screaming so loud at this man that you didn't even hear his tone of voice changing. And the louder she got, the more he changed. So by that time, I said, well, here we go. So, you know, you gotta just pay attention. He never said anything no more than don't talk to me like that. Why you saying that? It was 1 or 2 words every time. So, you know, those are things we just gotta pay attention. Use clear and simple language. We gotta know who we're dealing with. Everybody is not educated, and then some of us that are educated still can't understand. So, I just keep it real. I'm just being serious. So we gotta make sure that we make sure people can hear. I got called to federal court, and one of the attorneys thought they was gonna trick me, and it was a firearm. Young man shouldn't have had it. So I read him exactly what we have. So the attorney came back and said, so you're educated? I said, yes, I am. And we went down my whole history. And he said, so how do you know he understand what you said? I said, well, sir, I read this to the entirety to him. But then I come back and I explain to him, your gun is his gun and his gun is your gun. I said, if you ask your client, he'll tell you that's my saying. And the defense attorney turned around and said, no more questions. You just got your client 10 years. Just that simple. So I always try to make sure they understand what you're saying and have them a lot of times to repeat it back. Remain calm and patient. We do know if we screaming and hollering or cursing, and you know, I'll take your so-and-so back to whatever, that usually doesn't go over well with anybody, whether they're somebody, your client, or just an individual in the street. And then we got to maintain professional boundaries, offer support without providing therapy or counseling. Sometimes that's kind of hard to do. And then the priorities is safety. You got to stay safe. At the end of the day, if there's a risk to your health or your life, back off. And I know sometimes our adrenaline start flowing. I'm going to show this individual they are not going to get away from me. They're going to do what they're supposed to do. But at the end of the day, you all go back home to your family, because there's enough help out here for persons with mental health conditions or other people you can call, mobile crisis team, or someone you can contact. With the state of Mississippi, House Bill 1222 now has what every county, police department, county, municipality that have a police or law enforcement agency shall, not maybe, shall have a CIT officer. There's no questions about it. They have to be trained in mental health first aid. The CIT officers, crisis intervention team, it's a team of people where they de-escalate persons in a mental health crisis. So those are some of your resources, making sure that you stay in contact. They are gonna start offering, and that's one of the things I've talked to Ms. Taylor about, I'm gonna find out for sure, where doing like a CIT CIT training for non-certified persons. We have done it in Hinds County. The next time they do it, I will let the association know so you all could come in and actually get trained in that 40 hours. Now, the state statutes say you have to be law enforcement in order to get certified through the public safety department, but we do have instances where you can actually come and take the 40 hours crisis intervention training. So I'll make sure I kind of keep that in mind the next time I know, because I think we have like 8 CIT groups throughout the state of Mississippi. So that's one of the things when it comes to resources that you all can make sure, making sure you have the tools or whatever it takes. And with the CIT team, you're gonna find out who is your provider, what hospital will take the person if they are in a mental health crisis, because they all sign a MOU where everybody come to the table and have monthly meetings. So that'll be another resource that you can actually have. 988, that is the crisis lifeline. If you dial that 988, if you text it, or you can chat, those are the, these are some of the things that some people would do. Most of the time, our younger people, they are not going to dial the number, but they'll chat and they'll talk. When this went into effect about 2-3 years ago, more than 10 million calls have been answered. Right now, Mississippi is one of the top per call answers in the nation. For some, we lead in the nation in a good way. But we are actually, we answer more calls, texts, and chats. When it went live here in the state of Mississippi, Mississippi have 2 centers. It's a north and a south, and those are licensed therapists that's on that line answering those calls. So if they deem it necessary, they can send CIT out. The CIT officers for their local municipality or county or in the community mental health center, they are connected together. So if you call or have somebody call and they talk and if they feel like they need some additional care or site, you can, they'll automatically make that contact. These are just some reasons: call, text, thoughts of suicide, drinking too much or drugs, trauma, feeling depressed or anxious. These are just some reasons why you would call 988. They didn't forget about our veterans. A lot of times we deal with veterans. You can dial 988 and then press 1 and it automatically go to the veterans. I did on the, Mr. Taylor, will you pass me those sheets or just pass my appointment? Get right up under there. Where you at, Michelle? Yes.
Okay.
And I'm gonna make sure you all get those resources. If you're having trouble or suicide, Dr. Lake, my sister's gonna help you. You can call 988, the Veterans Crisis .net, or either you can still text to 838-255. I always mess that up. This is all part of 988. NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, what I was explaining to you all earlier, those where you can go and actually take classes about any kind of mental health condition, and they have groups that you can actually meet with. And then we talk about you all, self-care. You gotta take care of you, because if you're not right, you can't be a benefit to anybody else. And I tell everybody, we gotta start practicing selfish self-care. And what I mean by selfish self-care, where you take out some time and do nothing for nobody but yourself. Focus on you. See what's best for you. You relax. If you gotta drink you some of that colored water, you drink your colored water and stay at home, because you all don't need to get bonded out yourself. But do what's best for you. You know, one of the things I do from time to time, I sit in the house with nothing on. No TV, no lights, no nothing. I had a friend girl wanted me to cook her something to eat. She came by the house. She was like, "You got company?" I said, "No." She said, "Why is the house so cozy and look, it's just quiet?" I said, "Because that's my time." I mean, and I really started doing it, not even really paying attention to it, but it's relaxing to me. It's just that time where you just nothing. And that's what we gotta start doing, because your line of work is a lot of stress. Because honestly, one of the things I'll say, when Judge Green, I'll never forget, I went to her and I asked her, this young man, he was a young man, and I said, "Well, Judge, I think we should try him on bond. I think he'll be okay." And that evening, when we had Metro 1 in Jackson, they caught him up in the top of a tree. He had went to Walgreens and assaulted somebody. The police got after him. They went on a chase. He ran through the woods, and the infrared caught him up in the top of the tree. And I'm saying to myself, "Lord, I'm out of a job fooling with this man." But it's a chance you take when you giving somebody this freedom. So that's a lot of stress. And one of the things, I used to hate to watch the news, because I'd be like, I know that name. So that's why it's important to practice self-care. And these are just some ways that we need to do it. You know, figure out what's best for you. Wherever on this here chart, the biggest thing I say is slow down and unplug. That was the biggest thing. If you slow down and unplug, everything else gonna come into, your physical condition automatically gonna enhance. So these are just finding your support system, knowing who's there for you. I know in this business, just like with mine, you can't talk to everybody, and everybody don't need to be talked to. So, you know, you gotta find that common bond of who it is, that you can just kind of, what I call, lay it out, and you know, with no judgment zone. Just know you're not alone. Therefore, your mental health awareness can improve interaction, reduce stress, ultimately contribute to better outcome for clients and the justice system. So your role is vital and it is important. Those are the references. Like I told y'all, I used myself in all them years. I've been talking to people. 988 and the National Alliance on Mental Illness are some of the 3 references I actually used to put this presentation together. So I want to thank you all again for having me, and that's my spiel. Did I make my time? Anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
In the state of New York, when we call in, like let's say my brothers and sisters here are going on a hunt, they gotta pick somebody up, put them back in jail. When we call the precinct, when we have somebody that's suffering mental illness, we have an acronym for that, and we call that an EDP, which is an emotionally disturbed person. So I'm just wondering, does EDP, is it a global acronym, or it's just?
It's a global, but how can I put this? Well, I'm just gonna say it. We are getting there. We haven't made it there to the state, in this state where we need to be at when it comes to mental health and knowing, but a lot of times people, they know what it is, but they just don't know the acronym that go with it. So we're getting to that point. That's why it's important having conferences like this and bringing that awareness to the people that's actually dealing with the individual on a day-to-day basis. So law enforcement, as a matter of fact, the Chiefs Association is down here now. Every conference that they have, they are bringing in mental health professions to actually train and teach the law enforcement in the state more, to be more aware of the mental health conditions. So we're getting there. Anybody else?
Are they training law enforcement with children too? You know, like you said, we're dealing with more and more children. Are they focusing on that too?
Yes, ma'am. Mental health first aid covers youth and adults. And then the CIT training also covers that, because they bring those officers in and they can't use their weapons during the training. And you got a scenario, they're gonna put you in different scenarios and you gotta figure out what to do without that weapon. So it's not that they're taking it away from them, but at the same time, you don't wanna, mental health shouldn't be death. That's my position on it. It shouldn't be death. It shouldn't equal death. Not when there's other resources out there or people that could probably de-escalate the person and give them the help that they rightfully need. The sheet that you all have, you see on the front, it has that information. So, if you want to share it with your clients, either way, it will be beneficial. You will see, and then on the back of it, it has the veteran information. How does a veteran get help if they're in mental health crisis? So if that is, anybody, yes, sir.
I was kind of wondering this. Do you think mental health crises lead to dependence on drugs or more often, or do you think drug dependence ends up leading more to mental health issues?
Both. You can utilize drugs, certain drugs, and can put you in a psychotic state that you never recover from. And then you can be a person with a mental health condition. A lot of times they don't want to take the medication, and they, what they call co-occurrence, they use alcohol or drugs in the place of the mental health medication, which only enhance the mental health condition. So it's both ways. It's not just, I've seen it on both ends. So you think about if a person who's never had mental health treatment, get caught up in the criminal justice system, come to jail or prison, the first treatment that they get is probably gonna be inside of their facility. So you got a lot of stuff to peel back. If they went in for alcohol and drugs, once they get clean with alcohol and drugs, then I realized this person has a mental health condition, which leads to the drug and alcohol, which led them to the criminal justice system. So it goes both ways. Anybody else? you put out. No, I'm kidding. Ma'am?
There's not any, I guess, resources on the section we were talking about, the impacts that it has, and the mental health and all that, and the impact they have on the family. But as far as you know, there are no resources for these people to help them get funds to help them, is it?
Resources for if they need mental health medications?
Medications, if they need money to be able to survive, if they need help to, I mean, like, I've been contacted by, and we have one in particular, that the boy was severely mentally challenged, and he got in a situation, in a huge bond. We stretched as far as we could to help him out. But a $50 a month payment on a $100,000 bond is not really sufficient. So, I don't know that there's any, because I mean, they, other than go to churches or anything, there's nothing in Mississippi that you know of that can help them get more stability in their home and because these people's family, they're dirt poor and they have no issues.
It is no funding to help a person bond. Let me just say, when it comes to bond money, those resources, no ma'am, is not. But if the person is needing mental health treatment or conditions or medication and they don't have any money or funding for it, that's where your community mental health center plays a role. They can help with the medication and sometimes housing for that individual. But as far as the family financial assistance, no ma'am, it is not. It's almost like it's no other way to say it, but it's just on them. If that person, that's why I'm talking about the awareness and the early intervention. If you know that I got a mental health problem, and a lot of times we just turn our head and look the other way and keep looking the other way and keep looking the other way, and then I turn around and get caught up in the criminal justice system. Now I want you to come and help us. But that's why the early intervention is so important, that if we know this person got something going on with them, start getting them the help that they need. Because if not, they're gonna have a situation what you're having, where there is no financial assistance for someone bond in a criminal justice case like that.
What if the person's unaware of their mental health status? What if the person that is in trouble, like what she's saying, isn't aware that they've got a mental health issue and the family's looking for resources in order to get them help without going through the criminal justice system? Are there resources there?
NAMI
Okay. No.
and the Community Mental Health Center. And Mr. Taylor here, that means I need to leave. You can.
There is the Mississippi Bail Fund Collective. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. They paid several bonds that I've seen. It's Raquel Amamba. I know one voice, I think they're over that. They can't always help, but sometimes they actually can. So it's just good. Yep. And I think it's housed by One Voice as the organization, and Neil Lamala, the Jackson Mayor sister, was over it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you again, Michelle.